Hey, everybody, it's Dr. John Sherk, and we are here for a Friday edition of Brown Bag Lunch. Normally, we're up on Wednesdays at 11 o'clock Central, but we had some technical difficulties this week, so we are coming to you on Friday. So, here, what I want to talk to you about this week has to do with my doctoral dissertation that I wrote on air conditioning technicians. I've talked about this before, and I've answered this question before, but I guess sometimes I get the question often, and I can tell when I've answered it before, people haven't seen that video. So forgive me if you've heard this before, but maybe it's worth hearing twice if you have. So part of what I wrote my dissertation on was organizational commitment in air conditioning mechanics. So if you're the owner of a service company or a service manager in a service company, I developed some special expertise around how do you get good people and how do you keep good people? What are the dynamics that make what are the dynamics of commitment that a technician has to your company? So some of them are good, some of them are not good. So the model that I used said that there are basically three components. There's desire, meaning they want to be there. There's obligation or loyalty or kind of a fair exchange. Obligation is a word that's used in the academic literature, but the idea is they're coming in, they have a perception of the level of effort and the level of talent they're bringing, and they feel like what they're getting back from you is a fair exchange. And so that's bringing their commitment there. And the third one is that it costs them too much to leave, meaning like especially if your company, for example, has great benefits, or if they have a long history there, or if there's something unique about your company that they won't get somewhere else. The idea that they would lose that if they left is this cost component. So here's the way it plays out normally in a normal scenario, normal garden variety, middle of the curve kind of company. The people who are high desire to be their people, they have a lot of expressed effort. What I would call discretionary effort, meaning more than the minimum required. And then they don't think much about leaving. Very little thoughts of turnover, intent to turnover. So the people in the middle, the obligation people, they're sort of in the middle in terms of their discretionary effort and their intent to leave the company or thoughts of leaving the company. And the people who are high on the cost, that it would cost them too much to leave, those people have the lowest levels of effort, again, normally, and the highest thoughts of going somewhere else, but they don't because it costs them too much to leave. Then, so from this point, for example, one of your more problematic workforces are those who are the highest paid in town. They can't get more money somewhere else because what have you got? If that's the reason that they're working for you, they're there primarily because it costs them too much to leave. And that means their effort's going to be low and their thoughts of leaving will be high, but they won't. And that's not you don't want the most expensive person in town who's giving you the least engagement. Okay. So, but in this model, I applied it to air conditioning mechanics, air conditioning technicians, and it played out kind of as expected, except for one company. I had an outlier. And that company, the technicians had very high scores in desire, very high scores in costs too much to leave. They had both. And then in their discretionary effort and intent to turnover scores, the discretionary effort scores were extremely high and their intent to turnover scores were extremely low. Now, this is not supposed to happen. In other words, if the cost of leaving the company is perceived to be high, that would normally drag down their level of effort, and it would normally increase their intent to turnover. So I dug in and I said, what happened in this company? And when I started looking around, they all said the same thing. It's the culture of this company. It's the way they prioritize us as technicians. It's the way they treat us, right? So essentially the thing that would cost them too much to leave was the culture of the company, and the culture itself drove high levels of engagement and low thoughts of turnover, even though it also created the perception that it would cost too much to leave. So this is what was really birthed in me that day that I saw this research in my own work, that there's got to be a good strategic method, a good strategic way to compete for talent, to get him to retain talent with culture and not only wages. With the idea being that if you use wages too much, you create a group that costs too much to leave and you lose at the back end of that. But if you do it with culture, and by culture, these things are, what is culture? I mean, you put up a banner with an acronym that we believe in: safety, community, blah, 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 blah. That's not, that might be some tiny piece of culture. But at the end of the day, culture is whatever your company culture is whatever everybody assumes to be normal. If people assume that they're going to have a junky conversation with the dispatcher multiple times a day, that's your culture. Now you may say, well, we don't want that to be our culture. Well, then you can change it. But whatever the actual assumptions are is your culture, right? Like it or not. And you can put up a banner in your warehouse if you want to, but that doesn't make it your culture. Okay. So the work that goes into how do we become better communicators? What does it really look like as a company for us to say the technicians are number one? What does that really look like? Can that be possible if you, owner, if you take home $1 million at the end of the year and they just get a ham? Is that possible? What about the idea of how you bring in business? In other words, what's very common in a residential air conditioning company is the phone rings and we want it to ring more often than our good techs can handle. And so I have lesser technicians who aren't really qualified. I'm going to send them out on a call, and that rookie is going to do something kind of dumb and fry a circuit board, let's say, right? Now, who's got to fix that? It's your good technician. So the good technician who wanted to be at home with his family on Friday night now has to go out and fix this problem that someone else created, right? See, all of these problems are addressed or ignored somehow as a part of your culture. And if you want to recruit and retain the best technicians, look, I give you, when I work with clients, I'll give you wonderful tactical things to do to get people to interview, get people, how do I grow this workforce? I mean, there's ways to get there, but at the end of the day, it's the quality of your culture that they're going to experience every day. And the closer you are to average in your culture, the more likely it is that they're just going to find, quote, a better opportunity somewhere else because there's more places who are a little bit better than you, right? So with all of that in mind, what I want to encourage you to do, it's the 4th of July weekend here in the United States. If you see this today or you see it tomorrow, just let yourself kick it around over the weekend, right? What are we really doing? What am I, if I'm the owner, or if I'm a service manager, if I'm an executive, if I'm a leader, a senior manager at my company, what am I really doing, right? Do you kind of approach this issue like my hands are just tied? And so, well, whatever, it just work out however it works out. Or do you go into it saying, hey, I paid that person and that is the end of my obligation to them? Okay. You can do that. It just makes you average, and your best people will pop up and say, I'm not mad at you. I just found a better opportunity. Okay. It is what it is. The reality out there right now, you all know this already. I don't need to repeat it, but there are way, way more jobs than there are qualified technicians to fill them. And it's even, there's a shift happening in the market where this perception of it costs too much to leave is vanishing. That's part of my dissertation as well. That perception is vanishing from the normal daily experience of a technician, because they all know, if you got somebody with 5 years of experience and they know what they're doing, they all know they can get another job somewhere else in 15 minutes. I mean, they could, if they wanted to, come into your office right now, quit, and 15 minutes from now, your competitor is going to pull into your driveway and pick them up in their new truck at their new company, right? So you've got to accept this reality, and you've got to figure out, what is your game plan? There's not one right answer to the how part of this. That's part of what I do with clients is, okay, so what is our game plan? How are we going to address these issues? How do we How do we create if you're family owned, how do we create a career ladder for guys once they get to a certain point? Or is it just now you just got to coast for 20 years? For 20 years, we expect you to coast. That's probably not the best plan, right? And if you're going to churn them out, then that's your plan. Okay. But no plan is the worst version of this. Okay. So be thinking through how you're going to help technicians with a couple of problems. Number one, what about the ones who want to make more money? Let's even just talk about that one for a minute, because what is the request for more money? There's layers of needs that a technician has. There's 5 layers. This is a different video, but if someone says I need to be making more money, is that because they can't make rent this month? Is that because they're more concerned with long-term security because they're not putting anything in their 401k? Or is it that they want more respect and that's coming across in the form of money? I mean, maybe I'll do this video next week. How do I respond when someone comes in and says they want a raise, right? So there's all kinds of questions of fairness or whatever, but I can tell you, if they're coming in, there's some reason why. And if you misunderstand the reason why, whether you give them a raise or not, they'll leave unsatisfied. Okay. There's lots of technicians who are stable financially, but they've gone to a point in the company where they can't go up anymore because there's nowhere for them to go. It's not that they couldn't go if there was a space for them. There's nowhere for them to go, and they're feeling a status deficit, a respect deficit. And so if that problem isn't solved, it just leaves them in a position to go find a better opportunity somewhere else. Okay. All right. So I would love for you to reach out to me. We can have a conversation about this. I've got great programs. I'm rolling out a new program right now for if you're the owner of an air conditioning company and you want to compete for talent with culture instead of wages, super affordable, weekly contact with me, all of the stuff you need, everything from advertising templates to training on cultural concepts and everything in between, to get you to wherever it is you need to be. Reach out and ask me about it. I'd love to get on the phone with you for a few minutes and tell you about it. But I have the tools to help you, but what I can't do for you is create the mental conversion to saying the techs are the key to the whole game. The techs are the key to the whole game. If your technicians are plentiful and qualified, you're going to thrive in the air conditioning business. If they're not, you won't. You might be frustrated. There's all kind of other options there, but the techs are the game. Competing for them, for their talent, is the game. All right. My name's Dr. John Sherk. This has been Brown Bag Lunch. Again, if you like what you hear, pass it on to your friends, leave comments below, or reach out to me and we'll get on the phone for a couple minutes and get to know each other. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you next week.